fact you've got a complete story in one small book. So you're able to give the children a story that's complete and it's not just an extract. The other thing I really like about them is that they're high quality stories, they've got fantastic vocabulary and they allow you to do some really good thinking skills with children. Okay children, today we're going to be having a look at a book that I've brought with me and we're going to be reading the book and then we're going to answer some questions about the book. But before we do that, I want to share with you the names of some of the characters who are in the story. So I'm going to put down in front of you some of the character names. And you can see those there now, and you might be able to read those names, or you might be thinking those are a bit tricky. So I'm going to help you out. So we've got three main characters here in our story. First one I'm going to tell you about is So-chan. Can you put your finger on the one that says So-chan? That's it, well done. And the other person in our story is Su-mei. Well done. Su-mei is a little girl and she's also in our story. What we're going to do then is, before we start reading, I've got some words that are from the story as well. Oh, here's another thought. Are these names that anybody in our school has got? No. Do you know anybody with names like that? No. So do you think that the story could be set around here? No. Turn to the person next to you and decide where you think the story might be set.
In different countries. So then they can fight the evil and stuff. Yeah. I think it would be set in like China or Japan because they've got like Japanese style names and stuff.
Okay. The story is set in China and they are Eastern names, aren't they? And the story is set in the past as well. It isn't set in modern day China. So you've done a really good job there. Great detective work. I'm just going to give you, for our strategy check, some words that you will find in the story today. What do you think the words say?
Ramparts.
Ramparts
and conquer.
Fantastic. Do you know those words? Rohan?
Miss, I know conquer means like invade, like take it.
Ramparts are a part of a castle or a fort. So we've got invading and taking over and castles and forts. Any thoughts about the story then, if it's got words like that in it?
Something about like the knights taking over parts of castles and...
It could well be that. I'm going to give the books to you in a moment. And when we start reading, one of the jobs I'm going to give you is to find those two words in the story, ramparts and conquer. And when you find them, you might want to put a little sticky note on them to remind yourself where they were. This is your other job as you are reading. Today we're going to be looking at how the author uses proverbs in this story. Have you heard of proverbs before? I want you to look for ramparts and conquer, and I want you to see if you can find a proverb on page 5. And you're going to stop at the bottom of page 5. So I'm going to give you your story now. A Tale of Circles.
Newlands. The chief's name was So-chan, and although his power was ambition were great, his arrogance was greater still.
Well done.
This man was only ever seen dressed in armour.
Armour. Good go.
I think that's a proverb. The cat only knows one straight.
Okay, if you think that's the proverb, have a little think now about what it means. What's it telling you? Right, you've read beautifully, and I can see lots of sticky notes stuck into books. Luke, what have you found with your sticky notes?
Conquer and ramparts
Fantastic.
and the proverb
might be, I like it, I take it.
I like it, so I take it. That might be the proverb. I think it might be So Chan being a bit of a bossy britches, saying that when he likes something, he's just going to have it. He's being a bit greedy. I would like you all to put your finger on the sentence that says the ant knows only a single garden. The cat knows only the one street. And I can see lots of you have got your sticky note there. He wants to take some land. Which word that we've already got would you use to describe? He wants to conquer some land. Okay. What else has happened then at this point? Who else is he talking to? Oh, Kimberly's straight off the mark there.
He's talking to So Chan.
He's actually talking to Silent Blade at the moment. But ants only know one garden and cats only know one street. What is he trying to say to his leader? I want you to turn to the people nearest to you and see if you can work out what he's trying to say. What do you think?
Too hard.
It is ever so hard. I think you're right. Kimberly's hand is bursting there. Kimberly.
I think that he's trying to say like that the cat won't be able to find his way through places if they try and take over, like conquer the...
Who could be the cat? It's not the actual cat. Who could it be? Mac?
It could be like the people that live there, or it could be So Chan.
It could be So Chan. Do you think Silent Blade is saying to So Chan, go on.
I think he's saying to Silent Blade is saying to So Chan that you shouldn't make it a bit more wider because you might lose where you're going.
I think that is very clever, Mahak. I think you've done a brilliant job there. Did you hear what she said? Without turning over, what do you think is going to happen next in the story? I want you to turn to your partner and I want you to come up with a reason and a why.
I think he wants to go and conquer it because he don't.
So Chan's choice says no, we're gonna. Then he makes like an army together.
He don't listen to him.
So you think they're going to have an invasion? Do you think they'll be successful?
Depends how good but strong they are.
It depends on how strong they are, possibly. Let's have a look then, Mahak.
I think that because So Chan really wants to do it, he really actually wants to show that he's like really powerful, that he can like do anything he wants. He could have gone to conquer another street and they might be stronger than him and he might get hurt and lost.
And if you see any proverbs when I'm reading, I want you to put a sticky note on them. What do you think, Rohan? Do you think you can do that?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So can you turn over onto pages 6 and 7, children? 500 men armed with swords and clubs, knives and spears filed down the narrow winding path from the north.
See May.
Oh, well done. Notice the afternoon sun sparkling on the weapons of the approaching soldiers. I am the great So Chan, king of the mountain peoples. I have come to conquer this puny land. Where is your chief that he may bow down before me? My name, replied the old one, is San Q Yen. And you are quite right, mighty So Chan. I do not rule these people. So if you're marking that because you found conquer again, well done. We've got one that is about being ruled and how we're all ruled the same. Oh, you're going to find it. And we've got another one that is about being conquered. Right. So we've got up here, you have put a sticky note on there, Rohan. So have you found the proverb?
I found irritated. Yeah.
Oh, you did find irritated, and we all liked that word, didn't we? What does it mean?
Like you're annoyed.
It does mean you're annoyed, doesn't it? Good girl. So what does that mean if we're ruled by the seasons?
This, like where they are, it's not like it's like a little place and like no one's like in charge. They're all equally the same.
Ah, right. So Chan can't be in charge because we're all actually the same.
Yeah, and like,
Okay, well done.
So then,
Say that bit again, Kimberly, for everyone. In the end,
everything dies out.
absolutely. So you might say that you're going to rule us and take over us, but the seasons just keep coming and time keeps on going and we all die in the end.
Like how long
you're going to be ruled for because you don't know when. Well,
that's fantastic. Well done. This is what I'd like you to do tomorrow when you're working on your own. I'd like you to do some research about proverbs. I'd like you to find some proverbs. You could use the internet for that. Or maybe you could go and survey some of the grown-ups and get them to tell you some proverbs. Go on, one last thing, Kimberly.
Is a proverb a bit like a catchphrase?
I suppose it is like a catchphrase, but it's a really wise catchphrase. It's something to help you to make wise decisions.
It's something that means something.
With the search, I want the children to focus in on language. So I want to focus in on the word antique, antiquated, antiquarian. I also want them to look at some of the other really old-fashioned language in the story. The other thing I really want them to do is to try and retrieve information and to start to make inferences about what's happening in the story.
Did people still hear his voice in the depths of the night and receive letters and instruction in his handwriting? I might never have investigated or even heard of this matter.
Really tricky word. Read that bit first. Carry on.
With the earliest reports of the strange voices in the castle grounds, and local people had heard that Baron shout below as fought from the deep underground. You might not be surprised to learn that no one had yet shown any interest in buying the vacated property.
Up through the stones of the castle itself. So what's happening there?
People that are trying to get closer could hear angry whispers coming from inside the castle.
Well
like
done.
the people are inside the castle even though they're not.
Okay. Which word haven't you got a full understanding of?
The hearsay.
The hearsay. Have you found it? And arcane. Okay, they are here on this page. So what could it be?
It could be like an important ritual.
It could be. Have a look at antiquarian books again. And then the really, really tricky one is arcane, isn't it? So what did I ask you to do? I asked you to look for those different words. And I also asked you to start making predictions. So we found the antiquarian book, didn't we? What can you tell me then, Millie, about volume as it's used in this particular context? What does it mean? Do you know?
I'm not sure. When we were doing our our partner discussion, we said about the sound and amounts of things, but when we talked through it, we said that it was a book or a paper put together to make a book.
Brilliant. So it's an old-fashioned way of describing a book or a collection of papers, or even one in a set of books. What about then arcane?
A ritual, something maybe you worship or you'd give up time for, and I thought that could mean important ritual.
Isn't that really good? But an arcane ritual, or something that is arcane, is a secret or mysterious thing that isn't understood by very many people. How did you come up with that idea, Nathan?
Because it says on hearsay from the secretary, but it has the word hear in it.
Absolutely, and the word
So,
do you know what it really means? What type of talk hearsay is? It's gossip.
And because 4 people had gone missing in that estate, we was all saying that it could have been Baron not doing something because he wanted revenge because of his death.
Okay. scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not spooky and 10 being spooky, how spooky is that? About 6?
Yeah, about 6.5.
Okay.
5.5.
What do spiders do to the flies that they catch? Millie?
They wrap them up and they suck the blood out.
They wrap them up and they suck the blood out of them. Concerning a rare volume of arcane ritual and its use in preserving the life force, whatever that might be. Turn to your partner and tell them what you think the arcane ritual was.
That could link to the spider's lamb. So,
Spider's lamb.
So, taking someone's life.
Something like skeleton fingers closed.
About his throat.
Whose fingers are closing around his throat?
The skeleton.
It could be Baron.
Yeah. And indeed he used an...
If he had used any accomplice, so he was there with his helpers, if indeed he'd had any helpers, had not yet finally succeeded, but they hadn't failed either. I would really, really like you to read that story again, and I'd like you to finish the timeline. Because actually, there's lots more information that can be put into the timeline if you read the story. Some of it's happening now, in 1861, but there are other little bits that you can squeeze in if you look at that story. Do you still think it's only a 6? The advice that I always give to teachers about guided reading is to keep it really simple. I think that the moment you try to bring in too many strands, you trip yourself up, you confuse the children, and actually you're not able to teach what you want the children to learn. So by focusing on just one aspect of comprehension, I think guided reading is more successful.